All right. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us here today for another Office Hours live virtual Q&A. My name is Veronica, and if you don't know me, I am the career coach behind Atypical Careers, and I'm so excited to be hosting, back by popular demand, another entrepreneurship and self-employment for neurodivergent professionals session with the one and only Genesis Rose Long. Hi, Genesis, by the way. Hi.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
No problem. And we're going to be answering some pre-submitted questions today, as well as some live questions. So be ready to submit your questions via the live Q&A feature in the activity section of Google Meet. That's going to be the icon at the bottom right that has like the triangle, the square, and the circle on it. So be sure to check that out, the Q&A function there. But in the meantime, I just wanted to take a moment and introduce myself a little bit further. As I said a few minutes ago, my name is Veronica, and I'm the career coach behind Atypical Careers. And basically, I started this career coaching business because I kind of firsthand, as a neurodivergent professional myself, saw such a huge need for neurodivergent friendly career advice. So much of it out there doesn't take into account like our unique experiences, our unique needs and perspectives and things like that. And oftentimes, job hunting and, building your work life can just feel so invalidating and frustrating. And, if you're neurodivergent on the call, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm assuming that's why part of why you're here, because, maybe you got so frustrated with, the employment world that you decided, hey, I'd rather just work for myself. Maybe that's an option. So we're so excited to kind of explore those ideas today and answer some of your questions here. I want to turn it over to Genesis to introduce herself. Why don't you go ahead and do that?
Yeah, thanks, Veronica. So, hi, everyone. My name is Genesis, and I'm a business development coach these days, but I actually started as a career coach as well. And previous to that was an academic advisor for undecided or exploratory college students. So, my career is primarily in higher education. I did a lot of teaching and instruction and career counseling, and then really found that over time, the higher salaries went in higher ed, the less you actually got to work with people and do what you loved, which why you got into the work, which was actually do the counseling and the advising and the one-on-one support, which was my favorite conversations to have and my favorite work to do. And so I was working for a grant. The grant was scheduled to end. And so I was applying to jobs. I was getting these jobs and I just kept saying, no, thank you. And I couldn't figure out like, okay, I'm asking for more money. They're giving me more money. I'm asking for working remote. They're giving me remote, but I just don't want to take these jobs. I don't know why. And that's when I realized like, oh, it's because I want to work for myself. Like, I don't think any job is going to give me what I want because I just don't want to work for someone else. I want to see what it's like to try building my own business. And so back in 2018, I really pivoted all of my work experience that was, advising, but also sales and marketing, and started my own business. It was when, coaching was still kind of newish. People were like, who is a coach? What's that mean? And for me, my master's of education, I was able to specialize in program development. So studied a lot about pedagogy and how to be really effective with our programming in and outside of the classroom. And so as I developed my business, something that I noticed was really missing in the online coaching, online coursing space was people with the academic background coming alongside coaches and course creators to bring that pedagogy and framework that is out there, that academic history that's out there, into the online entrepreneurial space. And so after career coaching for I think about 3 years, I started having friends be like, hey, I want to be a career coach too. How do I do this? And there were, certifications out there for $8, $10, $15,000. And I just thought that was bananas because that made it super inaccessible to folks like me that were first generation college students and came from low income backgrounds and were people of color or and also struggled with chronic illness and neurodivergence. And so I wanted to make this online space more accessible to folks like me, the folks that have bigger barriers to access it. And so I started teaching others how to build their own business online while recognizing that they had specific needs. And so from that, I started a podcast called Sustain Your Passion, and the rest is history. Nowadays, I get to work with awesome folks like Veronica that are ready to share their wisdom and their experience with the world and need a bit of structure around it to make sure that they are offering programs they're really proud of, because that is one of the biggest barriers to being self-employed and being a new entrepreneur, is really having the confidence that like what you sell matters, because it's kind of like you're selling yourself. And so after, 6-7 years now, I can say that this was absolutely the best choice. And I still get to work with organizations. I still get to teach classes. I'm actually teaching for University of Kansas right now this fall. And I'm teaching my own courses and have coaching clients and consulting with nonprofits that I do, all because a while back I said, hey, I think I might be able to leverage my skills beyond just a job. And I think that might be a better fit for me. And I just got busy exploring and learning. And thankfully, I've got some of the diagnoses that I'll share here in a second that make it really easy for me to pivot and learn stuff. And I'm guessing if you are here, you identify as neurodivergent, you might also. So for me, my alphabet soup is first I was diagnosed PTSD, and that was because of anxiety and depression and childhood traumas that I went through. So CPTSD or PTSD, depending on what part of the world you're from. And then found out I'm ADHD as well. That was when it was like, oh my gosh, everything makes way more sense. And that was at 28. I didn't find out till I was almost 30, through school, professional, working for over 6 years, like would have been nice to know while going through school. And then was diagnosed OCD as well, which that is like the one that when I look at all of my life, like in general, it's been the biggest bugger for me. And so I'm really happy to have that diagnosis and get support with it. And these days I'm actually really curious if I also have autism, but I don't think that the process for getting diagnosed is accessible. So I'm not really gonna mess with it. And I'm looking into a PhD in the psychology of disability to be able to study how women that are later diagnosed are able to navigate their careers. And so then that way we'd have more academic background to be able to push some of our needs out into the world and get heard by those that, create education and create policy that influence our pathways to successful lives. So that's a bit about me. I know it's a long story. Let's see, the last thing I'll tell you about me is that I'm also a mentorship researcher and author. I have a book coming out in just a couple of months. We're actually doing our final round of edits with Information Age Publishing. It's called Liberationships. And so this is a mentorship model that I and my co-author, Kim McAlooney, developed about, I think that was like 2016 we got started. And so, we've been presenting this around the country and internationally, and now we are codifying the ideas in a whole freaking book. It's wild. And so that'll be coming out in the new year, I think. And so folks will be able to learn more about how we do what we do, which is liberationships, really helping people figure out how they can best contribute to their community by getting to know themselves through the process of mentorship relationships. So, okay, that's a lot about me, and I'll turn it back over to you, Veronica, so we can dive
I love
into
that.
Q&A.
I love that. And I love hearing you talk about like what you do, because, you're doing so much incredible work, and you're also helping other people. I know that I've been working alongside you for quite a while now. And, and if there's one thing that I've learned from you, it's that, if you're really putting your authentic self out there, you're going to attract people who are like-minded and who have things in common with you. And that's really the hope. That was at least my hope when I started my career coaching business. It's like, oh my gosh, I really want to work with other people who are just like me, who are aligned with me. I'm not being forced to kind of like put on a face and work with people who I don't jive with and things like that. So, that's definitely really incredible. And I'm hoping that, today we're going to be able to leverage some of your wisdom and some of your insights. And I'll be happy to chime in with my own experience as well. But if you're ready, Genesis, why don't we dive into the first question?
Yeah,
amazing. So here is the first question that I have here, and I thought it would be a good one to start because I think it's going to be highly relatable for the people in this group here.
Yeah.
I hate working for other employers, and I hate having people tell me what to do. Being self-employed sounds like the right thing for me, but how can I know for sure? And I think what I'm really hearing, and I don't know about you, I want to hear from you as well, Genesis, is, that feeling that like, what if this is a temporary hyperfixation, or is it something that's lasting? And it can be so hard to kind of gauge that, as neurodivergent people. So what do you have to say about this one?
Yeah, great question. And I just want to first name every single entrepreneur, every single person that is self-employed that you have seen be successful, whatever that means. Like, they question this too. It's the same thing as when you go to apply to a job. You have that same question of, am I really qualified for this? Could I really get it? And it's even harder because in self-employment and entrepreneurship, there's actually not a PD, a position description you could go look at and be like, oh, well, I have that degree. I have these years of experience. Like, perfect. I could, qualify for it. It is really flexible, which in some cases is brilliant and wonderful and what we need, right? But also a neurodivergent mind needs some boundaries too. And that's where I would say you get to make those boundaries, right? So you get to decide, is this right for me? And what is right for me? Which can be really overwhelming if you feel like you could do, well, anything, right? It's when people say in the career advice, like, well, you can do anything. It can actually be really overwhelming to find out you can do anything. How do you pick from anything, right? And so I would say the first step with this one, if you're trying to navigate through this block, would be getting clear on what is it exactly that you want to do. Because there's a difference between I want to be a coach and I want to be a career coach for neurodivergent minds, right? That is very specific. And if you know that you want to, let's say, do even like a monthly subscription box, right? Okay, what kind? What's the theme? What's the genre? How much will you charge? Like, start getting into the nitty gritty before you do something silly like quit your job and go all the way in. Like, try to figure out a bit more clarity before you do that, like, jump into it kind of thing. And personally, I don't give the advice that you need to go all in right away. I think it's super important to balance yourself so that you're not overwhelmed and terrified about, I don't know, not making $10,000 in your first month as a self-employed person because so-and-so online makes it seem like you could do that without any time or training or experience or pitfalls along the way. So instead, I would say, try to take it a little less all or nothing and see if maybe you can get started while you're still working a full-time job. And I know that is asking a lot because full-time jobs plus commuting plus life care plus if you've got kids plus if you're caring for others, if you've got pets, like all of these things take spoons. And so I just want you to know that you can start small, and whatever small looks like for you is still progress towards getting to the right place for you. And now the last part of this, the how can I know for sure? I know we want certainty. I know, especially with anxious minds, like we just want to know for sure it's going to work out. But realistically, you could be in your job and tomorrow they could cut your department. You could be in a job and next year you could decide it's not right for you anymore because you've changed, you've grown, you've become a different person. And so the days of forcing yourself to be in one career for 40 years, retiring from that place with a pension, and they're going to protect you, like some of the like boomer family it might be telling you is possible, it's just not realistic anymore. And so if you look at career development theory, what we see most often is that it's a cycle of getting to know yourself, exploring options, trying something out, and then redirecting as you go. You are going to continue changing and growing in your whole life. And so the idea of knowing that something is for sure going to be right for you, I don't think is actually an external job at all. It's not about the job. It's not about the career path. It's not about the self-employment or the entrepreneurship thing you sell or whatever. It's about you knowing that you are the captain of your ship. And so if something's not right for you, you will steer yourself in the right direction. You will continue finding the next right thing. And that's where that confidence of, how do I know for sure, can actually get silenced a bit, is that well, I'm going to try this. And if it's not right, I'm not going to view it as a failure. I'm going to view it as lessons learned and then continue on my journey. The same thing as if you got a job and you didn't like it. It's it's okay to try something and not have it work out, as long as you don't overcommit, throw away your whole life savings in a plan because you think in a month you're going to be super duper successful. Like, you take it slow, you pace yourself and see what you find out, and then redirect as you go. But I think if you are curious, if you know you want to work for yourself and you want to try self-employment, there can be a very low barrier to entry if you take it slow and start small.
That's great advice, Genesis. And, it really kind of brings forward for me the idea of, because this person is saying, I hate working for other employers, I hate this, and I want to be self-employed. I also just kind of want to bring up the idea that you shouldn't be going into entrepreneurship because you're trying to escape your current situation. It can't just be an escape hatch. It's got to be something you really want. And especially as neurodivergent people, we need to be really connected with the purpose behind what we're doing. We need to actually believe in what we're doing to get through those tough times. So I would just add that on to Genesis's already really great answer there. And for anybody who is still watching here and wants to pop in their own question, whether it try and use the Q&A function in Google Meet, which is again the triangle, square, and circle button in the bottom right corner, and it will pull up the Q&A function. If you're having trouble with that, just pop it in the chats. I'll find it there as well. But I definitely want this to be as interactive as possible, even though we do have a few questions to go through. And why don't we move on to the next one here? So this one's also, I remember this one as well. How do I know if my motivation to start a business is real? I'm worried that this will just be another temporary hyperfixation, and I'm afraid of actually starting because of this. So, Genesis, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so similarly, to what I just shared for the last question, start small, try it out, don't overcommit. And that's something that there's this horrible statistic out there. I don't know if you've heard this myth, but it's that like 80% of new businesses will die in their first 5 years or whatever. However, here's what they don't tell you about that. Those businesses restructure. Those businesses are still run by the same people. They just look different. They maybe went from an LLC to an S Corp and they rebranded. They maybe got bought by a bigger company. They maybe discovered, hey, I like doing that for a while and now I'm going to do this instead. But that entrepreneur is still moving forward with their dream, and it just shifts over time. It's the same thing as if you left a job after working there for 10 years. That doesn't mean you didn't gain 10 years of experience, but it means that you're ready for something else. And so I would say that, again, this is a mindset block around failure. And I am so sad that this narrative is out there, and this is really reminding me gosh, it's important to share this message with the world, that a business isn't only successful because it has a super long timeline. A business is successful for self-employment, especially if you are meeting your values, if you are happy, if you are making your resources stretch and you are getting to impact people. And so one of the things that I hear a lot about with folks that are, 3, 4, 5 years in, I've even worked with folks that were 15 years into starting their own business, and they did not study resource management, and they aren't implementing resource management tactics as they go. And so part of that is that, yes, you only have 168 hours in the week, just like the rest of us, right? You only got 24 hours in the day. However, when you are in a creative leadership role of starting your own business, that takes an extra 5 hours a day of just thinking. You are thinking all the time. You are making so many decisions, and that wears on your brain. And so be really mindful of how much time you're spending on your business so that you don't burn out. Reach those big goals without kind of lighting yourself on fire just to get there faster. Actually, let it be a slow burn, test it out, and don't be afraid to course correct over time. And then likewise, motivation is not something that will always be there. And so I'm a big fan of monitoring your energy levels and letting that guide your to-do list in a given day or week, and not trying to basically recreate your employment experience in your business, where you say, well, I need to work 8 hours a day. I need to do the same thing every day. I need to put out X amount of content, no excuses. Why are you going to recreate a corporate environment of industrialism in your own flexible and creative business, right? Like, but we don't realize we're doing that because we're in it. And so the motivation piece, like, it's going to ebb and flow. Some days you're going to question, what the fuck did I do? Sorry, Veronica, I guess.
It's all good.
Okay, perfect. And so with that, you know, you have to be willing to say some days are gonna suck and I'm gonna question if this was right for me. Same thing as you might go have a really crappy meeting with your staff and question if the job you took was right for you too, or if you should be applying to other jobs. But that doesn't mean that you have to jump ship right away. Having a down day doesn't mean that you need to give up. And so if your motivation isn't there every single day at 110%, don't let the influencers online make you think you're doing something wrong or make it mean that you aren't on the right path. And if it's a hyperfixation, you are going to learn so much. There is no one that I know who has tried to start their own business that didn't learn transferable skills into 1,000 other jobs, because you become the marketer, the salesperson, the financial manager, the service provider. You will become everything for your own business, right? Which obviously you weren't in your last job because you weren't the boss. And so now you still gain tons of experience. And hey, if it's a hyperfixation, go you for letting yourself learn and dream and explore, and then take those skills and repackage them into what's next instead. But don't be surprised if you get in and you love it, and then you just have to pivot a little bit into something else, and let yourself do that, because you might start off thinking you want to do one thing and figure out you want to do something slightly different, and that doesn't mean you failed.
Well said. I want to kind of mention as well that, you know, I remember when I started, I had so much trouble breaking out of that idea of like, you know, there is only one way to work successfully in a business. And I can tell you, like, you know, since I started my business journey, there are some weeks and months that where I'm doing like the bare minimum, and then other weeks and months where I'm doing like 2 or 3 times more than other people. And that even can vary from day to day. Like I could have like 2 days of really high productivity, and usually I work in the middle of the night because I'm a night owl, and like, you know, for some reason, like it's so much easier to focus when everyone else is asleep. And then then I'll take like another couple of days just to like do the bare minimum and just like, you know, coast on by, and it all averages out, I promise. So, you know, that don't feel like you need to be constrained by what you know about, you know, what work is like. Yeah, I think that's really great. We have one question that's been submitted through the Q&A section here, and I just want to do it because it's a really great one. How do you handle rejection as a neurodivergent business owner when you have raging RSD, also known as rejection sensitivity dysphoria? Genesis, you want to take this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I feel this one in my bones. You know, if you have RSD, you know it is a physical sensation. It is an all-consuming pang of pain that makes you feel like you are worthless, like life is not worth living. Like it just comes on so fast. That dysphoria piece is so real. It really just questions your entire reality and your perception of self in the world. And rejection sensitivity that sparks it sucks. I'm just gonna like first and foremost say like this is legit a big barrier. So true. Like I want to validate that, right? And here's some things that I've learned about how to manage it. First and foremost, it's not gonna go away. You're not gonna have a different brain all of a sudden because you've heard no 100 times on sales calls. It doesn't go away. However, you become better at managing it, and you're able to compartmentalize it a little bit better. And you're able to speak back to the negative voices that you hear when you get that rejection, right? And you are able to maybe have another call lined up when, if you only have, let's say, one sales call, or you get one shitty comment online and then don't hear anything else the whole week, don't have any other sales calls, don't get any other comments, that sucks, right? But then 3 years in, you might get, you know, a no on a sales call, and then the next call closes. You might get one shitty comment on a post and then 5 other positive ones. And so when you're getting started, it's just a skewed sample size, and those rejections can feel really, really big because they're, 100% of your experience at that point. But then as you get more and more experience and you see more positive, you experience the same situation with less rejection, it's less terrifying to keep going back into the arena and keep trying. However, this is where I would say having a coach that helps you feel confident to keep moving forward and feel aligned with your vision and your mission is super important, because sometimes you can't get yourself out of a shame spiral. If you are stuck in the thinking brain that got you into an RSD episode, it's really hard to crawl your way out alone. And so I highly recommend having an empathetic someone who is not tied to the success of your business. So what I mean by that is not your partner, not your parent, not your BFF even, because realistically, all of them have a stake in you being successful in your business. Their livelihood, their friendship, their community is going to be impacted by you making or breaking your business goals, right? Or you sticking with it and being happy or not. And the way that you feel impacts them. A coach is a third party. A coach, it cares so much for you and your success, but is objectively not going to be personally harmed by your losses or your feelings, right? Their job is to show up and support you. And so it's 100% pouring into you versus some of these other support people in your life that need you to also be there for them and might get scared and overwhelmed if you're going to them for support and comfort when you're having those moments of, oh my gosh, this was a horrible idea, I'm the worst, right? Which, like, totally fair to feel those feelings. Manage them with the right person though, right? Get support from someone that isn't going to make it worse because they're scared now too. And so I would also say a couple of just like really tangible things I've learned. First, have a list near you, like sticky notes, or I keep an inbox folder that's called Yay of positives. So any positive email you've gotten back, any comment you've gotten on a post of somebody saying, I love your work, thank you so much for sharing this, screenshot it, email it to yourself. Keep it somewhere you can see it. Put a sticky note or 5 or 10 around your computer screen that reminds you of why you are awesome at what you do. Because in the moments where your brain is telling you you're the worst and you messed up and you suck at this, because you have proof from this experience, it is so hard to remember the whole truth because you're pinpointing it on this one piece of data. So externalize it and know where to go when you start feeling those physical responses and that mental meanness comes up from an RSD episode. The second thing is get physically moving. It's so hard because we want to literally go into the fetal position and like cry in bed all day. I get it. Like shut the blinds and just cry and hide, right? But instead, I'm going to challenge you and say, when you feel that resistance to living, right? When you're feeling the just like curl up and cry feeling, you can still cry, but go do it on a walk. Go do it while dancing in your living room. Put on a song from a playlist that I also recommend. Curate yourself a like I'm a badass playlist and play those songs. Put new stimuli into your brain to make this rejection feel smaller, because our tendency is to want to sit and stare at the problem and focus on the rejection because we think that's going to make it like we're going to work something out and fix it or do better. When really what we need to do is make it smaller by putting in other pieces into our brain, into our thoughts. So get music on, read positive notes from people, talk to your coach. Ideally, you have a coach you can contact, even if they're not responding right away, like a place to put your thoughts and feelings so that they can get back to you and you're not alone in that RSD episode. And this is all specifically from like work RSD, right? But the other thing is if you experience personal life RSD, as a self-employed person, it's a lot harder to keep going on your own goals and your own dreams when you had RSD with a friend or with your partner or with your neighbor or whoever it was, like your mother or whatever, right? It's still hard to then shift yourself back into, I'm worthy of pursuing my career path and I'm able to be self-employed and lead my career in this way. So I just want you to know, like, it can happen in both spaces, and all of these tips are helpful, I hope, in all like managing it, to first recognize like it sucks. I'm sorry. I've been there and it's the worst. And don't let yourself be alone in it, and try to consider, this would be my last step, try to consider if someone you love, your best friend, your girlfriend, your child, try to consider if someone you love was having the thoughts they were having, that you're having in that moment, and you had a chance to speak to them. What would you be saying to them? Like, would you let your little sister call herself an idiot, call herself the worst person in the world, tell herself that she's hopeless? Like, I don't think so. And so try to externalize the experiences and kind of self-coach yourself until you can get to someone else who can pull you out of the shame spiral you're going to get stuck in. Because RSD happens. You are putting yourself out there more in a more public way, especially if you do social media marketing. Even if you're email marketing, even if you are going into places, like you are going to experience rejection. Like, that is part of sales. And if that becomes something that you don't learn how to manage, it could be the reason you give up on your dreams. And I just really hope that that doesn't end up happening, because if you are inspired enough to start a business and pursue self-employment, you have a vision and you deserve the support you need to bring it to life. And RSD could get in the way, or you could decide to put some of these strategies in place before it gets too big and stops you.
Amazing. That's awesome. What a great answer. And I'm going to flip over to the next question here. Here we go. I have difficulty remembering to take breaks when I am in hyperfocus, but my back and shoulders hurt from sitting for many hours otherwise. Do you have any tips or neurodivergent office furniture you suggest? What do you use, Genesis?
Such a good question. Oh my gosh, I love this one. Okay, so yes, so many thoughts. Okay, my favorite place to work is either in bed, on a couch, or like in a big comfy chair. I am not a huge fan of like work desk, work chair type of thing. I actually fell asleep in a college class once because it was one of those desks that was like attached to the chair. Didn't realize that that's ADHD, like not being able to stim. But of course, my brain thought it was like sleepy time because I wasn't moving. So if you need to be able to wiggle, if you need to be able to bounce, like get yourself a workout ball and sit on it. And don't try and make yourself recreate an office space at home if you don't like that. Like, there is no rule that says you have to do administrative work at a desk. Like, if that doesn't work for you, don't do that. And even like the computer you use, it could be your phone on a tripod. It could be a webcam setup in a window because you want to be looking outside. Like, give yourself the freedom to reimagine what your workspace looks like, because there are no rules. Nobody's going to come and judge you for it. And if they do, fuck them. Like, it's up to you to make sure that you are able to be productive, and whatever that productive looks like to you, I hope it's comfortable. So first and foremost, you don't need to work at a desk. Second, regarding the hyperfocus like hunch, okay, I was just doing this earlier today. So if you stand in a doorway, and so this is something you should do like regularly, but for sure at least once a day, stand in a doorway and do Y and W, which is put your hands all the way up as a Y on the inside of a door frame, and then push yourself through it. And it flexes open all of these muscles. Because what actually happens is that we hunch over laptops, and these muscles get shortened, and the ones in the back get elongated. And so it's actually the pain that we feel like in the back is because our muscles are too overextended, and then we're just crunched in like this. And so what the goal is to roll your shoulders back and open up this part. Right? I hope all of you are doing this right now with me, because it feels so
I'm literally sitting up a little straighter just by watching you.
Right. And so I was working with a massage therapist, and she used to work like right here all the time. And I would be telling her, no, it's my shoulders. It's right between my shoulder blades. You know, it's like, I want you to dig under my shoulder blades. And she was like, I know that that's what hurts, but what's going to make you feel better long-term is work here. So highly recommend do the Y in a doorway, push yourself forward, it flexes it all open, and then move your hands lower so your arms are kind of in a W, and then do the same thing. And so even just once a day will remind you that you have a chest and you have shoulders that need to roll back. And then in terms of the hyper focus piece, I am still guilty of a 5-hour hyper focus. Like, I absolutely cannot speak from a place of like, I figured this one out and don't do it anymore. Like, nope. But I can tell you that some of the ways that I try not to do that is I will purposefully not fill my water bottle all the way so that I have to get up and go get more water. I will set it so that I only bring half of my lunch and then eat half of my lunch knowing I will be hungry again, and then I have to get up and go get more food. I'll do things like that that give me no choice. Like, or I will make sure that like someone's calling me in a couple hours because I can't be trusted to manage my own time. Like, it's just true. And I'll even set my own timers, but you know who can turn off those timers? Me. So I'm saying, oh, I'm just going to make content for the first week of November. No, all of a sudden I'm 2-3 weeks into creating content and I've snoozed my alarm 12 times and I don't care about the alarm. I will keep snoozing it because I could just finish all of November's content right now. That's genius. Yeah, send your schedule to a friend. Like, having external accountability. Don't let yourself fail. If you know this is a problem for you, set yourself up with accountability and support and make it where, like, sometimes I'll think like, okay, I have to go to the bathroom a little bit. That's a good time to go work on email because then I can't just work through 40 fucking emails. Instead, I have to do 5 and then I have to get up and go to the bathroom and I have to remember I have a body. And so it's maybe not the most ethical. I don't know. Take what you like and leave the rest. But like, okay, I will also hold it for hours. And then it's to the point, though, I'm sure you know, eventually your body makes you stop. Like, eventually you really will have to go. And hopefully over time, though, right, you spend more time in your body. Which also I will say, I have a daily self-love habits journal that includes mindfulness meditation, even 2 minutes a day. I know so many neurodivergent people fucking hate the idea of mindfulness, but like, genuinely life-changing for me, and I am a meditator for like 12 years now. 2 minutes a day has been proven to rewire your brain and helps you feel your body more. So give it a shot. That would be another thing that I think can be helpful. So, okay, we talked about back and shoulders, stretching, hyper-focus breaks, get comfy office chairs. I don't know about any of those like TikTok ones, like the wide seat to like fold your legs on it. Seems legit. I might want that. There's also one where you can like kneel instead. I had one that was like a rocker and you could like kneel. I didn't like it. It hurt my knees. And so I never used it. I ended up giving it away. So I would say go test them if you can before buying them because you might not actually enjoy it. And it might just be like shiny object syndrome. When really at the core of it is like getting into regular habits of breaks and forcing yourself to do things like walking your dogs. And like, my dogs are genuinely sometimes the only reason I get out of bed in the morning because I'm so cozy and warm and I don't want to, or the only reason I stop working at 7 o'clock because they're nose booping me for their dinner. So let yourself, get support from other people, other animals, and just don't be ashamed of the fact that you want to work a lot and get the help you need.
Yeah, it all really comes down to knowing yourself and knowing, what your habits and what your inclinations are when it comes to work. And then, harnessing and not just relying on your internal clock and like your internal motivation, but also setting up like an external structure to help you do that. There's no shame in having tools and having resources to get to where you need to be, because ultimately, you know that if you are going to be doing this business, then you're going to be trying to put out like as much good in the world as possible. You can't do that if you're blocked. So definitely, like, that's the best way. One of the hardest, well, not hardest, but like one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that self-care is actually such an act of kindness for other people that you love around you. Because if you are not taken care of, if you don't have extra to pour from your cup, if you can't even fill your cup, you can't do anything for the people around you. And in fact, you might actually end up, causing collateral damage by accident, so, self-care is loving the people around you and, will help contribute to your overall success and everything.
Yep.
So Amazing. Let's look at the next question here, and with the time we have left. I want to hire someone to delegate tasks, but I feel insecure as I lack executive functioning. I wish there were neurodivergent focused assistants to keep us moving along with technical work that makes my brain melt, but I don't know how to delegate tasks well. Any thoughts? And you know what? This is so funny because I'm sure that other people have had the same thought too. I talk to my friends all the time and we're like, I'm terrible at cleaning and I need a cleaning friend to trade services with me so that we can help each other. But what do you think about this one, Genesis?
This is a really interesting one. I go back and forth with this all the time of like, do I want to do the work of training someone else to do what I do? And I'm like super ridiculously good at making things efficient. And so my judgment for how long something should take is kind of obscene because I'll be like, hey, I need this project done. And they'll be like, okay, that's going to take me 10 hours a week. And I'm like, nope, it should take you 3 because I have experience. I have a system. I can do it really fast because I know where to cut corners because it's my production. But they don't, and they might be newer to it. They might genuinely need 10 hours, and I don't want to pay for their 10 hours. And so then I just keep it on my plate, but I'm actually working like 3 times as fast in that 3 hours to get the same project done. And so I just want to relate to that first and foremost. Like, it's really hard to delegate, especially with your own business, where it's like, no, this is literally my baby. It's my livelihood. Like, do not fuck it up, right? Like, it makes sense, right? We kind of are control freaks that don't want to work for other people, want to do it right. And then, like, the idea of letting somebody else kind of half-ass something is really hard. So, I get it. Finding the right people is critical. And so, with that, I would say, putting yourself in neurodivergent spaces online to be connected with the right people will make this so much easier. Like going on Fiverr and looking for anybody, like going to some random VA site, like isn't gonna be as helpful as finding someone who gets the way you work, who thinks like you, who can work like you, and that you can relate to and actually be real and honest with. And I would say the easiest way to identify the things you should be delegating is what gets dropped to the bottom of your to-do list every week. Whatever you regret like putting off, but you keep putting off because you don't like doing it, is probably taking you twice as much time just thinking about how much you should be doing it compared to if you just gave it to someone else to do. And you don't always have to have someone completely do the whole project. Maybe you have them do step 1 of the project or step 3 of the project, and then you get to still do the other pieces. So it's up to your standards or it's done the way you want it to be done. But in terms of actually the executive functioning, like problem there, right? I think a lot of times people think that bringing in assistants or bringing in like a VA or something is going to make that part easier. And it doesn't, because I can tell you, I have had paid interns, I have had paid content writers, I have hired people to support my business over the years. And if you don't know what you're giving them to do, they just cost a lot of money and it sucks. And so don't go to someone thinking that they're going to be able to manage the work for you when that's not the level of pay they're asking for. Like, you might think, oh, it's so cheap to hire someone that, you know, is an assistant for me. Great. You need to still do the management work of knowing what they need to be successful, what done looks like, articulating that, writing instructions, getting them access to everything. Like, and if you don't want to do all of that, what you're actually looking for is either an online business manager or you actually need a coach, because a coach can sit with you and say, okay, what all needs to be done this month? What all needs to be done this week? Let's set due dates. Let's decide how long it takes. All of that executive function support and management is actually the work of a coach. And so if you are looking for that type of support, you might actually be looking for a coach. But if you know, like cleaning, for example, you can say, I want this bathroom cleaned, and they know what clean and done looks like. Great. If they don't, you're going to have to teach them. I need you to fold these towels. I need you to clean this toilet. I need you to scrub this mildew. I need you to write like all the details. So just look for the right person for the level of support you actually are looking for, and know that, yes, you might be able to trade some of your tasks in the long run, but they're not going to be like up and running in the first week unless you're hiring someone who already has experience and skills in that area. This is something I see happen most often actually with social media management. People think they want to hire a social media manager, but people want the services of a social media manager, but they hire like a social media creator, or they hire someone that like does not have the content management skill set and is just there to like make the graphics and publish things for you. But like the creative work is still on your plate, and paying for creative work is really expensive. And so they get kind of confused of like, why is it so expensive to hire a social media manager? And it's like, because they have to do research, they have to write the content, they have to come up with all the pieces of it, they have to create the graphics. Like that takes way more time than just like doing tasks on a list and scheduling stuff in Hootsuite or whatever. So make sure that you know what you're looking for, which might mean you need a coach. Make sure you realize it might take a couple of tries to get the person up to speed with you. So don't try to just like outsource once and be done with it. Like build a relationship with someone and look for those people in other neurodivergent spaces, because they might get you a bit better and probably won't mind that you have 50 questions before you can hire them.
Yeah, absolutely. And for that, I do want to recommend, if anybody in the watching this hasn't joined the Facebook group, it's called Neurodivergent Careers and Job Hunting. And I'm going to be posting the link to that a little in a couple of minutes at the end of our presentation. But that is a really great place to connect with other neurodivergent professionals. And there is one thread, I think under self-promotion thread or hashtag job board thread. Those are great places to look for people who offer different types of services as well. So definitely give those a look. We have 10 more minutes, and I want to try and get as many of these questions done as possible. So if you're okay with it, Genesis, let's just keep trucking.
Let's go.
All right, here's the next one. Finally, I'm licensed, but now I'm broke and want to know what is a good way to get the capital upfront that I need to start a business right away. And we all know that neurodivergent people, a lot of us have a lot of financial barriers. It's just like, you know, the way that it kind of shakes out. So Genesis, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, that is so real. So a couple things. There's a lot of different ways I could advise someone on this topic. So I would first say, like, maybe it's not, okay, depending on your comfort with debt, maybe it's not time yet to be fully in your business. Maybe you go get a job that funds your business while you're building up income for it. That's an option, okay? There's nothing wrong with working, let's say you're a CPA. There's nothing wrong being an accountant for H&R Block for the first year or two, and then starting your own business. It is very common for people to work in a company and then leave that company and go do the same thing for themselves. So first and foremost, like on that side of the spectrum, if you are really risk averse, really like loan averse, debt averse, you don't have to take out loans for your business. You don't have to pursue grants for your business. Then as we move down the spectrum, right, I would say the opposite side would be there are business loans. They come with interest. They are expensive to get the money up front, and basically what you're paying is to get income up front, and then over time you pay it back, right? So there's interest involved, but your business is carrying it, not you personally, right? And so in that case, you'd need an LLC, you need to be incorporating, and it wouldn't work for the self-employed individual. The self-employed, then you're picking up the debt yourself versus your business as its own entity is picking up the debt. So I would say those are the two sides of the spectrum. All the way along, though, we have things like small business grants. Depending on where you're at, you can look this up. Anywhere in the US, we have the Small Business Development Center, and they have a $5,000 startup grant that you might qualify for. So look into grants. They are few and far between. They are highly competitive, but if you are a mission-driven organization, there's nothing saying you can't get free money to start your business. So check it out. The next thing is that you can pre-sell your time and sell your services. So let's say you know that you are only going to be able to have 10 clients for the first 3 months of your business. Have people pay you up front for those spots. So rather than saying pay me monthly, pay me quarterly or whatever, you can have them pay the entire fee up front. And there's different financing that people can get on their own. Also, how people pay for your services is none of your business. So like whether they're taking it on through credit or loans, or they have a big savings account or a trust fund or whatever, it's not your problem. That's for them to work out. And so you as the business can say, hey, pay me up front. And then that's how you secure your spot, because I only have X amount of spots for the first 3 to 6 months or whatever you're trying to rescale. I've seen people do this for even a year-long mentorship program. They require payment upfront for that whole year, and then you have the capital in your pocket to then go and do more marketing, buy the services you need to then like actually provide your service, whether that's a Zoom account or getting a computer or whatever. So that would be actually having your clients fund your business by having them pay upfront. And then we get into different types of loans. It could be a credit card. I personally funded my business with a 0% credit card. Hugely risky. Like looking back, the freaking risk I took there. But it's what felt right to me. And I was fully committed to, well, if this business doesn't pay me back and pay this credit card back, I'm going to get a second and third job. And I was committed to getting it paid off in the amount of time that I had for that 0%. So I was able to fund the startup of my business and pay it off within, I think it was like a 15-month credit card or something like that. So that's also an option. But again, this really comes down to how risk averse and how debt averse you are and what you're comfortable with. You also can go talk to your friends and family. Like you may not know the same thing as I've heard of college students whose grandma sold their car because they wanted to get their grandkid into a certain school. Like, I don't know why. I might not ever do that, but cool, go grandma. Like you might not even know how many supports you have if you don't ask. And so I don't think it hurts at all to go and talk to people about it and ask and consider what grants or loans might be out there, but know that ultimately you are going to have to pay it off one way or the other. If your business isn't successful, you're going to have to pay it off through jobs you work. And so that's where like your comfort and risk is really what's going to matter the most there. I would also say partnerships. So if you know that we were actually talking about something similar. If there's a nonprofit or someone else who has a big grant, like a research grant at a university or a nonprofit in the community, they want someone that does what you do. You can go do consulting for them. You can be a contractor for them and then take that money and funnel it back into your business. I'd also say, don't get tricked into like needing to pay for ads or like marketing costs right away. Like there are so many free channels to be marketing your business, and even bad marketing copy is better than like marketing you can't actually afford. So try and self-fund and just know what your actual limits are and don't push past them, because an entrepreneur who can't sleep because they're up all night stressed about their money situation isn't making sales either. So try to make sure that you aren't overextending yourself and figure out what like you actually can do to feel safe financially as you grow.
Great answer. And I'm just going to do one more before we wrap up here. So let's try it. Marketing is this one's up your alley. Marketing is so difficult for me. I hate putting myself out there and selling because it feels wrong, like I'm trying to trick them. And because of that, I avoid marketing tasks. Is there another way to attract clients that doesn't make me feel this way?
Yeah. So high integrity marketing is what I do. I am a consent-based sales teacher. And so what I mean by that is that if you feel like you are trying to trick someone in any way, there's something wrong with your marketing funnel. There's something wrong with your marketing messaging. And either you don't have enough clarity on what your offer is, and you need to get more clear on what your offer is and isn't, and who it's for and who it's not for, what it includes and what it doesn't include, and why it matters. And then just go be honest about those things. Or somebody taught you something shady and you're feeling it and you know that it's not right, so stop doing it. Like point blank, don't do marketing if it makes you feel icky, because you're doing something wrong. And if it's that you know what you offer, you love it. Like, could you imagine someone who was selling like the best pizza in Italy with the most like local fresh ingredients, walking around with a hot pizza in their hand in a farmer's market, feeling icky, like they were trying to trick people into buying pizza from them. Like, why would they feel tricked unless they knew they couldn't provide that level of quality over and over and over again to their customers? So then they were tricking them into thinking they were getting this hot, fresh, delicious pizza when really they were going to go sell them some frozen pieces of pizza or something. Like, there's an integrity problem if you're feeling like you're tricking people, and it doesn't have to feel that way. And so I would say get more clear on your offer and be more honest in your marketing about what you do and what you don't do. And then at the end of the day, marketing is an important part of a business. And if you can't do it, if you keep trying and you think you've tried every method under the sun and you are really like, no, I just can't do this, get somebody else to do it for you, because a business without marketing isn't really a business that's sustainable. Marketing is the difference between having a business that is just an idea and you in your room and having a business that is actually serving people, making an impact, making an income, because people need to hear about you. They need to hear about what you do. And you should be proud of what you're doing, and you should be able to speak with integrity and confidence and powerfully articulate what you do and what you don't do. And if you're not there yet, then maybe you're not ready to be marketing yet, and you need to be in product development a little bit longer before you go put yourself out there, because the more marketing and sales traumas you feel, the harder it's actually going to be for you to sustain your passion for your business, because you have all of these icky experiences that are pushing you away from marketing when it doesn't have to feel that way. Like, I don't feel that way when I market. I don't feel that way when I sell. And I know most of my clients don't, because we do a lot of product development time.
Well said. And that really brings us to the end of our presentation here. So thank you so much, Genesis, for your words of wisdom. And I just kind of wanted to let everybody know that, you know, Genesis is has always been such a really great resource and source of information for me. And I'm hoping that if some of you guys feel that you need somebody to support you in this way, especially when it comes to marketing and consent-based sales and stuff like that, you know, definitely check her out. She's just posted her link in the chat there. So feel free to book a free business strategy call. Genesis, did you want to say a few words about this one as well?
Yeah. So if you are in that place of, I have an idea and I'm not so sure if it's, you know, the right one for me, I think it could be viable, I think this could be the right next step, but there's something keeping you stuck that's not helping you move forward, I can help you identify what that is. And if it's a mindset problem, we can do some work for free on that call. If it's a larger problem related to developing your offers or creating a marketing plan, I can point you in the right direction of where you might be able to get that support, whether it's with me or one of my colleagues that I've met over the years. So I know how scary it is to be in your shoes. And I just want you to know that there is support for you that is genuine and free. And I will be happy to get to know you and will tag you every chance I get if I see something that you would be a good fit for. My hope with this is that I network with other folks that are passionate and doing good work in the world. So if you want to talk, I'd be happy to meet with you one-on-one.
That's incredible. And just to let everybody else in the group know, if you are looking for additional career support, you know, I've created a free resource on Facebook, a Facebook group that is actually we've actually just passed 78,000 people, which is, yeah, I know, Genesis, right? We've been talking about last year about like how quickly it was growing. And so every time we reconnect and talk, we're like
doubled.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But it really shows how important it is to have these communities and to have, like, you know, neurodivergent friendly spaces where we can talk about our experiences, especially when it comes to something as life altering and life impacting as our work lives. So definitely check that out. Actually, I am going to paste the link in the chat in case you guys want to check it out. And then doesn't look like the URL showed up, but try and copy and paste that. The last thing I want to say is that I also do have a free online training video for people who are neurodivergent and burnt out at work. It is called Build a Sustainable Work Life and Break the Neurodivergent Burnout Cycle. And I'm going to link the link in the chat as well. So if you want to sign up and access that, you can definitely do that as well. yeah, okay, that worked. So with that said, here is some of our contact information in case you're looking for it. But thank you so much for coming to this presentation. I hope you come away with it from it with something new, something exciting, maybe even some inspiration. And be sure to stay in touch with us at Atypical Careers for more resources like this. Thank you so much, and have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone. Thanks, Veronica.